Hello, everybody. Hi. So this is a Southern Hellenist, and I'm back with another stream video. Not okay. So one of the huge reasons that I decided to do this today instead of tomorrow is because I work until 4 tomorrow, and I'm just going to be too dead tired to do it. And I sort of want to not forget to do this. And this is actually a video I've been wanting to do for a pretty long time, and I'm really glad I'm going to be able to do it. So, um, so we're going to talk about the Greek gods in popular culture and um, how they have affected a lot of people that have decided that this is the religion for them. This is the religion that they're going to follow because they feel this really strong connection through these mediums. So, oh man, I had soda. I really should stop drinking. I really should stop drinking soda, but what are you gonna do? Okay, so growing up, when you go to school, should be a lot of people, um, there's a subject in school called world history. And in world history, you are taught about these different cultures, cultures that have long since been replaced with other cultures that get replaced with other cultures that get replaced with our culture. So cultures are always being replaced with new ones and everything like that. So the three cultures that seem to be talked a lot about is the Greeks, the Romans, and the Egyptians. When I was in high school, those were the three big cultures that were mentioned. It might be different now, but in my school we talked a lot about the Greeks, the Romans, and the Egyptians. And it was during the time that I was in high school that I was still a Wiccan, and I still, I knew about the Greek gods, I knew about I knew about the Roman counterparts, I knew about the Egyptian, the Norse, the Celtic is person, Celtic people. So I knew all about these different gods and goddesses. So one of the things about reading about these different cultures is this is a lot of times their first introduction to that world. Now, for other people, especially people that are raised in a predominantly Christian household, the one culture that is really demonized is the Egyptian. The Egyptian culture is demonized, their gods are demonized, and a lot of people will tell you that when God attacked the Egyptians, he actually also attacked their gods. I don't know if that's true or not because I wasn't there. So you have this demonizing of these different cultures as a way of showing that Christianity by far was the most superior religion or superior whatever. So what has happened, and this I remember when I was in middle school, 7th grade, not 6th grade, 7th grade, I actually took a class called mythology, and it was a really fun class. I really enjoyed it, and it was all about the different cultures and their myths. And one of the things we watched was the original Clash of the Titans. And this movie was amazing. I'm not talking about the shit movie that was released several years back, the remake of the movie, but we're talking about the one that had Dame Maggie Smith in it and several other people. It was amazing. It was amazing. I actually watched it, and I didn't know who the woman was. And then later on, I watched Harry Potter, and I kind of like, okay, what movies did Dame Maggie Smith do? And you look up, and it's like Clash of the Titans. Is like, okay. And then you rent the movie, and it's like, oh, okay, I remember her. So the movie really introduced a lot of people to the gods, especially the Greek gods. So, so you have that movie, and then of course you have video games like God of War, which also goes into the Norse world. I actually have the game God of War, but I've never played it. I really do want to play it though. So you have these video games that sometimes they'll depict the gods as being not good, which is what God of War does, and people are intrigued by this, and they decide to read up on these gods, and sometimes they decide that this is the pantheon that I will be following. Um, another thing to also note is, if you look at probably the most successful book series that centers around the Greek gods and the monsters and, of course, the heroes, is, of course, the Percy Jackson series. That series is insanely successful. And then, of course, you have The Lost Hero, and then, of course, you have The Trials of Apollo, and then, of course, which The Lost Hero introduced you to their Roman counterpart of these gods. So when you have a pantheon like the Greek gods that really has this lasting impression on the world, and it amazes me that the church spent hundreds of years to get people away from venerating these gods. And they thought they had gotten rid of them. They thought, nobody is, we've gotten rid of their influence. But they really did not get rid of the influence that these gods had. There was a lot of mythology that remained even after the church purged Greece of much of their, written records and their historical past. But there was still so much about Greek worship, about what incense you would give to whatever god, their names, their stories, all this stuff. So these gods, in fact, survived. They weren't worshipped anymore, but they were still around. So why are the Greek gods so big in popular culture? It's because they're the gods. They're these mighty warriors that clashed against these even larger enemies and managed to beat them. You have the story of Heracles, which is Greek for his Roman counterpart Hercules. You have Heracles. My mother told me when she was a little girl, she watched the cartoon Hercules, and I actually watched the old cartoon, and you could just see my mother's just eyes lit up. She had all these really wonderful memories about this show. And then, of course, I watched Jason the Argonauts, which is an amazing movie. I really love Jason and the Argonauts. So you have these movies, you have these video games that are centered around Greece. And a lot of people are kind of like, the power that these gods have are so strong that they actually go to Greece because they want to visit the ruins. They want to see the statues that had one time been venerated and probably given offerings of incense. So you have this, the draw of the gods is extremely powerful. And it is so powerful that a lot of people have turned their back on a religion that replaced them and have gone and embraced the religion that was defeated. Um, Defeated, one writer says it naturally died. People can draw their own conclusions. But I think that the series that really, really had an effect on a lot of people was the Percy Jackson book series. And when they filmed one scene of the movie, when the Hydra was attacking Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, they filmed it inside of the Nashville Parthenon. And the Nashville Parthenon is probably, if you really look at what year it was built in the 1800s as part of this view that Nashville was the new Athens. And they have plays there and they have concerts there, which is amazing. You go there and you actually can go inside and you can actually see, the statue of Athena, and it's meant to be a replica of that place. And the Nashville Parthenon has been used countless times. It was used for the History Channel, the Clash of the Gods, talking about, there was one like Medusa. It was filmed in there. It was Engineering Empire, Greece was filmed. They filmed a scene there. So you have this, just the building itself inspires. And in Turkey, they have a replica. It's a way smaller version of the Temple of Artemis. And their hope is at some point they could actually rebuild it and turn it into a museum and a place for students to do their art and all that type of stuff. So that was over, I think, 15 years ago they wanted to do, and they still haven't done it. At some point in the future it's going to happen, but not right now. So the gods have this huge effect. If you look at the White House, I know a lot of people don't be a fan of the White House right now, but it's an amazing piece of architecture. You look at any type of building that speaks of power, and it looks the front of it looks just like the Parthenon in Greece. You go to Greece. Greece is reopened. You go to Greece and you go to the Acropolis, and you can just, even though rituals and sacrifices to Athena ended over 1,500 years ago, you cannot get rid of the power of that place, the energies of that place. That place, it draws people. People want to go to the Acropolis. They want to see the remains of the Temple of Athena. They want to maybe sneak a little libation to her from their water bottles. I remember when I was on Timothy J. Alexander's forum, and I asked about, hey, if I go to the Nashville Parthenon, can I at least pour a little bit of water, outside the temple, outside the museum? And basically one guy was like, well, you can, but you have to be really discreet about it. And I don't really like the idea of being discreet about my practice, but I understand where they come from. But the gods and their stories and their presence has always been there. And it's not something that I think is ever going to end. I think that you cannot get rid of something as powerful as the Greek gods, because they're just everywhere. And that is something that people, especially Christians, have to get through their thick skull, that you did not destroy the Greek gods. You you did things to make it illegal to worship them, but now that we have a, human rights, and because we have courts that uphold complete and absolute freedom of worship, you cannot deny people the right to worship the Greek gods. And it was 2 years ago that the Greek government finally gave in after being fined gazillion drachmae. Um, and so they basically decided, let's get over and done with, and let's just recognize them. So yeah, so that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Please comment down below, and I will see you guys around. So until next time, may be happy, healthy, and most importantly, be safe. Bye.